morning and welcome to First Unitarian. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing Woyaya.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester. My name is the Reverend Verdis LeVar Robinson, and I use he, they pronouns, and I'm the Minister for Growth and part of a 3-person ministerial team who have left me here all by myself. I mean, one is celebrating a birthday, one's, celebrating a birth of a child. But I am not alone at all. So Pablo, our music director, is here. We have Massey as a worship associate, and Amanda, our acting director of religious education, is here, and our glorious choir. Don't they look marvelous? We are so glad to be here this morning, and oh my gosh, all of you as well. So totally not alone. So glad that you are here. We are truly blessed and truly not alone. Here at First Unitarian Church of Rochester, our mission is through spiritual connection in community. We listen deeply to others and ourselves, open to wonder and transformation, and serve together with love and humility. And we acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral lands First Unitarian now stands. So, if you are new or newish here, make sure you stop at the welcome desk so that we can help you connect. And if you are here today because you are going through a hard time or are worried about someone else, please connect with a pastoral care associate during and after the service. And our pastoral care associate, where are you? Right in the back, there you are. Please connect with her. So as we settle into this time and place, let's take a big collective breath together, everyone. And let's settle in to this service. The service is very special for me particularly. The month of February is, there's Valentine's Day, the birth of Saint Valentine. And then you have the birth of Susan B. Anthony, which is the actual birth of Susan B. Anthony, birth of Abraham Lincoln, as well as the birth of Reverend Sherry. Celebrated their birthday on Friday. Happy birthday. As well as Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass' birthday is the 14th. So it was because of Frederick Douglass's birthday and Abraham Lincoln's birthday that it was decided to have a Negro History Week that was expanded to Black History Month, the shortest month of the year. That's all right. But really, it was because of Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King, and you can put Susan B. Anthony in there too. But here in the sanctuary today, we're going to be hearing about some Black history and a look into the future as well, with hope and inspiration of the past. So I'm glad you're here. And I will invite Amanda to light the chalice here in the sanctuary. And wherever you are, please light a chalice or light a chalice in your heart as we light ours this morning. Massey. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, what? Massey, if you can light our chalice this morning, that would be great. Please join me in saying our unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. Now rise in body or spirit, mostly in spirit, as we sing, "Come and Go With Me," and there'll be some clapping involved, so get ready, get loose. Amen.
Can you guys hear me? There we go. Hello. My name is Massey, and I use she and her pronouns. And I'm a very musical person. I have been singing for pretty much most of my life. I've been in so many choirs and a cappella groups and musical theater productions that it's hard to remember a time where music wasn't a part of me. But I've noticed that when you immerse yourself in music the way that I do, there's all these little things that you kind of take for granted. Sometimes I forget that not everyone has a place where they can go to make music. Something as simple to me as singing along to a song with a friend can be an impossibility to some other people. The average person, even if there is such a thing as an average person, does not get very many opportunities to connect with other people through making music. Instruments are pretty expensive, after all. And this reminds me of a strange spiritual experience I had at the UU summer camp Unirondack. This was a long time ago, because at summer camp, you are actively encouraged to make music. You sing at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You sing on walks, and you sing around campfires. There is a whole lot of singing. And this can kind of be disorienting for people who aren't really used to singing on a regular basis. One time, the entire camp, about 60 of us, were gathered around a campfire sharing stories and songs, and there was an encouragement to sing along if you knew a song that someone else was singing. And so people would usually play songs that were meaningful for them, and maybe 4 or 5 people would join in who knew it and recognized it and were able to sing along. But not everyone, never everyone. But then one person stood up and said, "I want to play a song that we can all sing to." A pretty daunting task, because as much as we like to pretend that everyone knows the lyrics to American Pie, not everyone knows the lyrics to American Pie, especially not people from my generation. But there is a song that pretty much everyone from my generation knows by heart. And that is the theme song to the 2007 animated TV show Phineas and Ferb. Do you guys know Phineas and Ferb? How many of you guys in front know Phineas and Ferb? Sarah? If you don't know, it is a very, very charming show about kids doing wacky stuff on summer vacation. And the theme song is my generation's equivalent of the Friends theme song, where everyone knows it. And if you don't know it, I encourage you to go look it up after service. It is exceedingly cute. But this person started singing, and to my surprise, everyone sang along. Everyone knew it. It was a miracle. All these kids I've never seen sing once started singing their whole hearts out. I even heard them describe it half-jokingly as a spiritual experience. And yeah, it's a really silly song from a really silly show. But it was kind of a spiritual experience. For a brief moment, the Phineas and Ferb theme song became a hymn. Because, to be honest, it didn't really matter what song it was. It only mattered that all of us were able to sing it. For one brief, glorious moment, we were all joined in song. And isn't that why we come to church? Sometimes we need a place where we can all be joined in song. Right after the 2016 election, the first thing I did was go to an a cappella rehearsal, and I sang. If you don't know the words, we have handy books and screens with the lyrics here at church. This is a place where every single person can lift up their voice, because it doesn't really matter what we're singing as long as we're singing it together, because singing together can heal our souls. So, I invite you now to rise and greet your neighbor and share a song that you enjoy singing with other people, or a song that you enjoy singing with other people, or a song that has helped you get through a hard time.
the Phineas and Ferb theme song, folks. Fern or Ferg? Ferb. Phineas and Ferb. Okay, cool. Good morning. Good to see you all. Wonderful to be together, to have our young people right up front, don't you think? So great. Yeah. All right. So I wonder if anybody out here has ever tried to learn to play an instrument. Yeah? Yeah. It's fun, right? And it can be hard, too. Hard to learn to play an instrument. And when someone who is very young learns how to play an instrument very well, we sometimes call them a prodigy. A prodigy. So, Nina Simone, whose parents named her Eunice, started playing the piano at age 3 before her feet could even touch the pedals. By 6 years old, she was playing at church where her mother was a Methodist preacher. Nina grew up without a lot of money, but in a family that was full of love and pride in being African American. Nina Simone was born in Tyrone, North Carolina in 1933. When she was 12 years old, she performed for the first time in public. Has anybody here ever performed music in public in front of an audience? Yeah. Were you excited? Were you nervous? Nervous, yeah. So Nina was nervous, but confident. She had practiced, and she knew the audience was going to love her. But most of all, she knew that she had her parents' support. They believed in her. They saw her talent. She was young, gifted, and Black, and they knew it, and she knew it. Nina looked out at the audience, and she saw her mother sitting there in the front row. Now, at this time in North Carolina, sometimes I lose my spot, and then I have trouble finding my way back. So, now at this time in North Carolina, if you were African American, there were certain unfair and racist rules that you had to follow. There were restaurants where you weren't allowed to eat, stores where you couldn't shop, pools where you weren't allowed to swim. And if you were riding on the bus, you were expected to ride in the back. So that was the time when Nina was growing up. But as she looked out at her parents in the audience at her first piano concert, her heart swelled with pride to see them there. And then she saw a white man approach her mother, and they talked for a minute or two, and then her mom and dad stood up, and they walked to the back of the hall. So, at first, Nina didn't understand what was happening. Her parents had worked hard to shield her from the unfair laws and mistreatment that was happening all around them. And so this was Nina's first direct and remembered experience of racism. She felt a fire starting to burn inside of her. She was angry, but she was determined. She would not allow her family to receive this kind of mistreatment. When Nina's teacher came backstage to tell her it was her time to perform, she walked out on stage and she sat down at the piano, but she didn't play. The audience waited, and they waited, and then they started to look around. What was going on? All the while, Nina just sat there, straight backed at her piano with a fierce look on her face. So eventually, Nina's teacher approached her to ask what was wrong, and she explained that she would not play until her parents were returned to the front of the auditorium. So her teacher headed off to find the usher, and eventually Nina saw her mother and father head back to their seats at the front. As soon as they were seated, Nina took a deep breath. You can take it with me. And then she played. Oh, did she play? And when she was done, she looked out at the stunned and silent audience and at the fierce pride on her parents' faces. Throughout her life, Nina continued to play piano. This is one of her records. Sing and write music and perform for audiences all over the world. She stood shoulder to shoulder with other Black leaders of her time, demanding civil rights and an end to the racist mistreatment of Black people. Nina never forgot what it was like to be young, gifted, and Black, and in 1969, she wrote a song with that title about the exceptional worth and dignity of Black children. So may this story about a powerful African-American woman who was an artist and an activist, and I think the high priestess of soul, unfold in your hearts until we meet again. And we'll sing our children to their classes.
As we see our children off, I have a poem to share. And this poem was written by an African-American activist named James Weldon Johnson. He also penned the lyrics to the Black national anthem, of which we'll talk about later, Lift Every Voice and Sing. But I was introduced to this poem in Vermont. I had never heard it before, and it was called The Gift to Sing. And I was introduced to it by a composition, a choral arrangement by a contemporary composer, he's about my age, named Reginald Wright, who had written this at the beginning, right before the pandemic, and it was debuted as a virtual choir. Remember virtual choirs? Do y'all remember virtual choirs? Yeah, they're still out there. But this one, we sang live in Vermont, and its lyrics really, really did something to me. They really reflected what was going on in my life and what I hoped for and what singing did for me and my ancestors when it comes down to resiliency. So I'll read this, and then the choir is going to sing it. Sometimes the mist overhangs my path, and blackening clouds around me cling. But oh, I have a magic way to turn the gloom to cheerful day. I softly sing. And if the way grows darker still, shadowed by sorrow's somber wing, with glad defiance in my throat, I pierce the darkness with a note and sing and sing. I brood not over the broken past, nor dread whatever time may bring. No nights are dark, no days are long, while in my heart there swells a song, and I can sing.
That's cool.
That gives me a new Betty.
I now invite you to relax, get comfortable in your seats, and join in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirits of life and love and God of many names, we gather today in celebration and song, but now lower our voices in mindfulness and prayer. Each of us enter into this space with songs in our hearts, songs of joy and love, but also songs of heartbreak and righteous anger, some of celebration and peace, and some of sorrow and longing, some quiet and some deafening. In this month of celebration, songs and stories, we also hold in our hearts the horrors of white supremacy and racism, and the hard work ahead of us in confronting and dismantling them. We also hear the people of California who face the full disastrous reality of climate change with every change in the seasons. But mostly, we hear the deafening silence of those in power who refuse to lift up their voices with us. We come here to return our weary hearts to community. May we sing regardless what song is in our hearts. And may we carry in our hearts a new song of warmth, of ritual, and beloved community as we journey through this world together. Amen. We enter now into ritual to bring what is on our hearts and lay it on the altar of community and spirit. Honoring the complexities of life, bring to mind whatever grief, growth, or gratitude is alive within you. Online, you're invited to share in the chat, and here in the sanctuary, you are invited forward to light a candle. If you would like an usher to bring a candle to you, please raise your hand. May we now share in this ritual of community care and witness to one another's hearts. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and the world is held in this community and by a love that will not let us go. Amen. Everything our church does for ourselves and others is made possible by what we bring to it. Each week we practice shared generosity to support the work and witness of Unitarian Universalism in Rochester, and half of our Sunday offering goes to a partner organization working to create a more just and loving world. Today we share our plate with the Rochester Beacon, an independent, nonprofit digital newspaper that aims to build a stronger Rochester through informed public action. The Beacon is a forum for perspectives that are rooted in intellectual openness, nuance, and inclusion. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, our offering will now be received with gratitude.
Thank you so much, Pablo. Beautiful. Meditation on Lift every voice and sing. Also known as the Black National Anthem. Has anyone heard that before? Well, if you haven't, and who's watching, there's a little small game tonight. Just a little bit, call it the Super Bowl or something like that. You'll hear it there. And that has been very controversial. I think this is the second year, maybe the third, that they have sung the Black National Anthem at the Super Bowl. Well, why is it so controversial? Well, because it is a Black National Anthem. It is also, the Super Bowl is always in February. But why is it so controversial? Because what it's talking about in the lyrics, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. No one wants to talk about liberty. No one wants to be harmonious with liberty. Not liberty for everyone. No, we don't talk about that. But let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. That's not bad. That's not bad. That's not why we don't want to hear this. But what about sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us? Dark past? Our past has never been dark. This is United States of America. Our past is not dark. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Y'all don't need any hope. Facing the rising sun of the new day, let us march on till victory is won. I thought victory has already been won. Let us march on till victory is won. What are y'all fighting for? What are you marching for? It's been widely controversial, especially when there's a lot of efforts going on to walk back our history or to gloss it over. Well, 3 years ago, I was in seminary and I took a preaching class called Preach As If You Mean It. Yeah, an actual preaching class called Preach As If You Mean It. In other words, that's what we try to do every Sunday. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we had an assignment that got to the heart of our personal spirituality, and it was to identify and reflect on sources of hope. So just do that exercise with me. What are your sources of hope? Whenever you need an extra something of hope and it seems like there's nothing but despair around you sometimes, what brings you back to hope? What brings you back to you? And for me, I am a historian as well as a genealogist. I used to teach history and African American studies at Monroe Community College. I was tenured and everything. And used to do walking tours and things like that about Rochester's history, but I decided that I needed to do my own history. And I've been doing it for many years. It started when I was a junior at Brighton High School. And I used to go over to University of Rochester and look at microfilm. Does anybody know microfilm? They don't even use those anymore, right? Microfilm of census records. So here I am. Before there was an Ancestry.com. Thank goodness for Ancestry.com for those that are genealogists, because without that, going through every page, thousands and thousands of pages, hours and hours and hours, trying to find my ancestors, and I found them. So when I think about sources of hope, I think about my ancestors because they're the reasons why I'm here. Not the nebulous group of people whose names I will never know that came before me, but the ones I do. The ones I discovered, and their stories. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about my family. Now, there's going to be some harsh realities that I will be sharing with you, so guard yourselves, guard your heart. Just want to put that out there, that sometimes it's not easy to even talk about. And it wasn't always despair. There's joy. There is success. There is all that because I'm here. But we had to get through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of oppression because of our society and the way that it was created and the way that it has persisted. But I used to talk to my grandmother a lot, and I remember going to her, this is on my mother's side, like my maternal grandmother, who the only one I knew, and she lived in Southwest Georgia, so where the red clay is very common. Have you heard Martin Luther King's speech about on the red hills of Georgia? This is where he's talking about. On the red hills of Georgia. In fact, they used to go to a church called Red Hills Church. And my mother went to a Red Hill school. So when he said the Red Hills, this is where he's talking about. And I remember going to my grandmother's farm, about 325 acres of mostly red clay. I'll say that again, 325 acres. Like, who has 325 acres right now? My grandmother had 325 acres in rural Georgia. How did she get that? I'll tell you about it. But first, I remember her voice. I remember her cooking. Oh, she can cook breakfast like nobody's business. And those grits and sausages and things like that. I remember her singing. She used to sing a lot. She used to pick up her hymnal and sing a lot. And she used to tell me stories of our ancestors, and I remember every one of them. And throughout these stories, there was a common thread, and the common thread was that they sang. My ancestors did. They utilized the power of their voice and song to connect to the divine, to connect to a higher power, to connect to the power within them to survive, to hold on, to go on. That's why that song that the choir sang and that poem, The Gift to Sing, is so important to me. The poem written 100 years ago speaks to me now as I need more hope than ever in my life so far. I need the hope that things will get better. I need the hope that Trump won't become president again. I said it. I hope. Thank you. I'm sorry. Just saying. I hope that our rights will continue to not be taken from us. I hope that we are able to build a better and beloved community. I have to hope. I have to sing as my ancestors did as well. And so James Weldon Johnson, who penned Lift Every Voice and Sing, which became the Black National Anthem, Gift to Sing really takes it to a different level. Because he says, sometimes the mist overhangs my path, and blackening clouds around me cling. When I think about that stanza, I think about my great-great-grandfather, Reuben Walls. Reuben Walls. See, he was born enslaved. He was born enslaved in Southwest Georgia. And when he was a little boy, around 9 years old, he was called out to the middle of the slave quarters. There was about 30 or 40 people on that slave plantation, the Walls slave plantation. And Reuben was called out with everyone else. And so he was short like me. I mean, he was 9 years old, but I think it's at the milk. But anyway. And he came to the front, and when he got there, he saw his mother, who was my third great-grandmother, tied to a post. And without any kind of explanation whatsoever, they proceeded to whip her. And whip her. Until my grandmother said the blood ran down her back. And she died in front of her kids. I can only imagine what that was like for Reuben, my great-great-grandfather, because his blood, her blood, runs through my veins. I don't have to imagine. I still feel it. I still feel the pain. I can hear him singing. You know that song, that spiritual, Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child? Has anyone ever heard that song before? Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long ways from home, a long ways from home. Thanks for indulging me to sing that. But he was a motherless child, but not completely alone. You see, the women on the slave plantation, they looked after him. But he grew up in the slave master's home, even after slavery was done. There's no record of him because they kept him hidden. In other words, he was a good worker, and they wanted to keep him on. And they did. But he eventually met a woman by the name of Alcester Mote. And Alcester Mote was also born enslaved, and they were neighbors. And so they got married and started a family. Of course they started a family. I wouldn't be here if they didn't. But the family farm was near a creek with a mill. And if anyone knows about the late 1800s, what was going on during the South with some of these mills and ponds and everything, malaria broke out. And they lost 5 of their children. So that second stanza, if the way grows darker still, if the way grows darker still, shadowed by sorrow's somber wing, that fits in right there to what they experienced. How you keep going when that happens. She sang her way through it. Alcester, my great-great-grandmother. But they needed to find a place to raise their family safely. The mill wasn't working. And the old slave master started to leave this world, as some of us will do. Most of us will do, hopefully. Maybe all of us will do. But started to leave this world and had no one to pass on his land to. He had no heirs. So he went back to Reuben. Maybe guilty conscience, maybe because he sensed his end, maybe for reparations, I don't know. Reconciliation, I don't know. That's not my business. That's up to him and his God. But he sold Reuben and Alcester that land for a very low price, all of 325 acres. Remember my grandmother's farm? That was the plantation which we sang, bled, died, worked. The plantation that my mother was raised on even. But going back to Alcester, she was known for her singing. Big surprise, right? Like if this is your ancestor, probably known for their singing. And one day, she was walking home from church, kicking up the red clay, just so happy after coming home from church. And she was singing so loudly, loudly, more louder than she had ever sang before. My grandmother was like, why is she singing so loud? My grandmother was like 5 at the time. This is like 1919, around 1920. And I can imagine her singing or saying to what James Weldon Johnson wrote, with glad defiance in my throat, I pierce the darkness with a note and sing, and sing. I can imagine her singing this song, keep your lamps trimmed and burning. 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 The time is drawing nigh. Children, don't don't get weary. Children, don't get weary. Children, don't get weary. The time is drawing nigh. Just singing as loudly as she could. Well, she died the very next day, in her late 50s. Reuben lived on into his 80s, late 80s. But by the time he got to his late 80s, his white neighbors who were envious of his land tricked him to giving up most of it. You know, those assaults on our elders are still going on. Some things change, some things remain the same, don't they? He wasn't as vigilant, and he lost most of that land. And by the time he died, it was all gone in the hands of tricksters and not his heirs. But one of his heirs, my great-grandfather, God bless him, said, I don't think so. He saw my generation coming and wanted to leave something for us, his descendants, and wanted it back in the family and struggled hard to get it back in the family. And as he focused on the few generations, that third stanza, I brood not over the broken past, nor dread whatever time may bring. He got most of that land back, y'all, through the help of one of his white neighbors who had known the family for many generations and said, this is not right what's going on. She helped him get that land back. Much gratitude because, like I said, my mother was raised on that land. I visited that land when I was a kid. But I had never seen doll walls. My mother did. And when my mother, who was raised on that land, would see him, he was always in the fields singing and talking to himself. She thought that was scary because he was singing and talking to himself. But was he really singing and talking to himself? I imagined that he was talking to the divine. I imagined that he was talking to his ancestors on that land in which they were buried, and most of them were buried in unmarked graves. Buried in history, forgotten, but he did not forget them, and that's why he kept that land. I can hear him singing, I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. My grandfather, nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. I can hear him in those fields singing that because it kept him going. Because he understood the last line of that poem. No nights are dark, no days are long, while in my heart there swells a song, and I can sing. Yes, I can sing. Whether or not you can sing like angels, you can sing anyhow. You can sing when we are sad and alone. We can sing till the power of love comes in. When we feel discouraged, we can sing till the power of hope comes in. When we are tired, we can sing till the power of peace comes in. Again, even if you can't sing like angels, sing anyhow. And that's why lift every voice and sing means something completely different to me than it did when I was on Goodman Street learning it every summer, especially when it says, stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat Have not our weary feet come to the place where our fathers sighed? And that's why I keep on telling those stories. The place where our fathers died, the place where our fathers sighed, the place where our fathers cried, the place where our mothers prayed, the place where our siblings were sold away. But the place where joy came in the morning, the place where we overcame, the place where we looked to. And that is to a bright, brilliant, equal, equitable, inclusive future. So we all need to sing that. We all need to sing, true to our God, whatever that God is, and true to our native land. Let us keep forever in the path, we pray. So, with that being said, let us sing. Lift every voice and sing. And we're going to sing all three verses today, and you're going to hear it tonight. Maybe not all three verses, but you're going to hear it at the Super Bowl, and now you'll know a little bit of where it comes from and what it means to at least one African American. Please rise in body and spirit as we sing, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Y'all can cheer. Y'all can cheer after that. That was beautiful. Thank you. As we extinguish our flaming chalice, with the words that are on your screen, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of this community, or the flames of fire of commitment. These we carry in our heart until we are together again. And I'm going to invite you to help us stack the chairs, only the ones with the arms. You can leave the rest of them there if you can and will, please. And have a wonderful week, everyone. May love be with you until we are together again. May whoever you would like to win the game tonight, win the game tonight. But while that Black national anthem, please rise in body or spirit wherever you are in recognition and acknowledgement of all that we have learned together today. Amen. Blessed be, and Ashe.